Welcome to Journey Through the Gate, your paranormal portal podcast, as we delve into the many questions and wonders brought on by the supernatural experience. What's on the other side of the gate? Let's find out together. Welcome to this side of the gate, and you know how much we love our furry friends, and aren't they just I really think that they're so much more connected than we are to this whole thing, and I know, dear listeners, that you feel the same way. And I just, after scheduling this guest today that I have for you, it's so special. I have just been having memories of being a little girl, and on those Saturday afternoons when we got a chance to see a movie. And I remember my mom said, "You can't miss this one. You've got to come in from playing and come on inside and sit down in front of the big Zenith." And I sat, cross-legged on the floor, and here began this wonderful movie called Dr. Dolittle. 1967, this movie was made, and Rex Harrison. It's been redone, but never done like Rex did it, I assure you. And just the thought of having the ability to talk with the animals. This is a little bit of what Rex said. If we could talk to the animals, just imagine it. Chatting to a chimp and chimpanzee. Imagine talking with a tiger or chatting with a cheetah. What a neat achievement that would be. And today we have Dale McCarthy, and I believe she can tell us a little bit about what that feels like because she is an animal communicator. Welcome to this side of the gate, Dale. Come on in.
Thanks so much for having me. And yeah, what I always start saying is animals talk, and they really do. And believe it or not, they have lots to say.
I bet. I just bet.
I'm fortunate that I get to find out and help owners with animal lovers that have even horses or other type of animals other than cats and dogs that what their pet's saying.
Isn't that amazing? What a wonderful thing, because we all think that, via body language or what they're trying to say, we can figure it out because we've been with them for so long, especially if you've had a pet for, 10 years plus. And I think it's more the other way around. I think that they know more about us than we could ever imagine. They know when we're sad. They know when we've had a bad day or we're feeling hurt. And I just think it's just wonderful. It's just another thing that we've not tapped into enough. And I'm so glad you're here today. Thank you for spending this time. And let us know first up before we get how did you get started and what do you do now? How can people get in touch with you? Because we're going to do it at the beginning and at the end, because who doesn't want to see what their cat or dog or horse is thinking? And tell us.
Well, the best way to get a hold of me is dalemccarthy.com. That's DALEMCCARTHY.com. And you can reach me through email there. And the thing too is that I term myself as an animal communicator. And people say, well, what is that? And, some people think, oh, it's a pet psychic. And the reason I don't like calling it that is because I'm not telling the future, right? What animals will tell me is what they think about themselves, why they have certain behaviors, health issues. If it's a rescue dog, I don't even want to know that, but they'll let me know that they had what type of beginning they had, things they like or dislike. Sometimes it's if they're ready to pass on, and then also their thoughts about their owner. And as you just mentioned, they come into our life for reasons. And it's funny because when I do these sessions or appointments, sometimes it can be 80% about the animal, and other times it can be the opposite, and it can be mostly about the human because the animal's concerned about what their owner's going through at that time.
They're so loving and selfless. They really, I really believe that, I've had multiple experiences with animals, and I can tell you that, even when they've crossed over, it seems like they come back just to comfort us. We've had, multiple people on this program talking about that, and a lot of us, that are, involved in this program or listen to this program have had the same thing. And I really believe it's because they're so much more concerned with us than anything else, our well being in a lot of ways. They're so
Yeah.
connected.
Yeah, and what I believe is so the thing too is that what I believe is that everything's energy based, and so this, as what you also know, is that so everything's still around us, whether it's here in this life form or it's passed on to soul form, like physical or soul.
Hmm.
And so when I do sessions, the animals do not need to be alive because their energy is still with us. So sometimes I'll be doing one, and I was actually doing one for a woman and 3 chihuahuas, and I just was describing their personalities because when I do a session, I don't want any information other than the name, age, and sex
Hmm.
of the animal. And if there's they know the breed, that's great. But if they don't, it doesn't matter. And I sometimes will do, 2 to 3 animals at one time in a session. It's not just one animal. It's however many they want to talk about.
Uh-huh.
And I was doing these 3 chihuahuas and I was writing the information. And then I was writing something. I thought, well, this is a different personality. It doesn't fit with the other 3.
Hmm.
So when I'm doing the video conference call with a woman, I'm talking about this other one. And she goes, oh, I forgot to tell you I had one that passed on. And I went, well, it didn't want to be left out, so it's coming through and describing itself as well, so it knows that it wants to be part of this conversation.
Wow.
So they're always there,
Oh, yes.
and yeah, it doesn't matter how long ago. I was doing a call with a woman from Massachusetts, and she had 3 horses, and 2 were alive, and one had passed away 5 years ago. And it was still able to give me a description of how when she bought it, it was this really deteriorated, older, messy looking horse, and she turned it into a champion.
Oh,
And that's why I don't want photos either, is because I don't want to see what they look like, because I want them to tell me, because animals don't look in the mirror and know that, oh my God, I'm this big. So I've had like an animal that told me it was a lap dog. And then I was doing the call and the woman said, do you want to see what it looks like? And I said, yeah. And I found out it was a 145-pound dog.
because they
So
perceive themselves different. I mean, how many times have you walked by a mirror, like you're carrying your cat, or, I've always got a cat over one shoulder or something, and you walk by a mirror and you show them and you go, look at the handsome kitty. Look at how
yeah,
handsome you are. And you wonder, as they're looking, are they seeing another animal? Do they know it's them? I try to touch them in the face and everything to try to give them the idea that this is you. This is how handsome you are. And I'm one of those Looney Tunes. And that's just, you want to communicate with them as much as possible. And we all try. And I love the fact that how you do your readings is the very first thing you do. Is you have the pet friend or the human, pet parrot, whatever you want to call it. I hardly ever use the word owner because I just think that's
yeah.
so ugh. But the pet friend, human, give permission for that pet to speak to you. And all that is if you are connected in this world, you know that a lot of times mediums or psychics or readers or anything like that, communication wise, they would need permission to get into your energy. Well, of course, you would have to have permission to get into the pet's energy as well, the animal's energy. I love that about you.
Well, thank you. I also do it as well because I do my own version of my own permission. So, like when I'm doing a session the night before, I'll do a permission of my own, and I'll have and I call them owner because the animal will let me know their hierarchy. So I don't want to call them like a mother or anything until I find out what they consider them.
Right.
And so, but anyway, so the owner does their permission, and then what happens is, it's just sort of to me, it's like collecting the cell phone call, right? Because that way, it's sort of a way where it's like, okay, we phoned each other, here we go,
Uh-huh.
and they don't have to be done at the same time. And it's also too because it stops me from whenever I'm out walking down the street and getting too much information coming at me,
Hmm.
but the odd time I will get a dog look at me and I go, oh, you want, and then I get the symptom of starting to yawn, which means they want to talk. And I'm going, not because I go into a more of a quiet place when I write my notes. And I just went, no, not going to happen. I'm not talking to you now. You're not here. And it was funny because when for one of the videos, we were shooting it and I did 5 sessions in a day, which normally I do one, and they were shorter, but it was still hard. Is I went for a walk with a friend later and we went where I lived down to the beach area and there were some dogs. I went, don't even look at me. Don't talk to me. I don't want to have any conversation. I'm done. But it's just funny. So my permission too is to also have it so that I only give advice when asked and that it's a way for us to connect. Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, it makes sense. I mean, if you back away from this, if you kind of get the, what do they call it, the 4,000 foot view, it all
Yeah.
connects and it all makes sense. Energy is energy, and of course, connecting in and getting the permission and all that, that just makes so much sense. I mean, I've had to do things where I had to go to a friend of mine that did readings, and I had to get information for someone else, and I knew ahead of time I had to get his permission to take his energy so she could read. And it sounds so funny, but it's true. It's just if you know anything about it, like, I'm an empath, so I have
Yeah.
a hard time, and I think that animals. I have a harder time with animals because I can tell their anxiety right away. I'm walking into it, you know,
Yeah.
their anxiety, their fear, their this, their that. And I'm just running around my backyard trying to feed everybody who wants a sandwich, I mean, everybody. And they all know it. And you can't tell me that they don't have some kind of I don't want to say sixth sense because, I think they have probably more than that. They're more elevated in that field because they don't have all our human burdens and things and question. It's just not natural to them, their instinct. And I've had animals that I've never seen before show up in my front porch with a hurt paw or something. I was like, how did you know to come here? Of course, you're in the right spot. No, yes, I'm going to fix it. But how do they know? You know, it's just amazing.
But they do know, and that's the thing is that so it's just where they know. So, and animals come into our lives for reasons or purposes, and they also come in at times. So there'll be times when someone say, well, why isn't this animal like the other animal I had previously? It's because that animal that came before needed to be in your life for a certain reason that you required at that time.
Mm,
The next animal that comes in is totally different.
mm.
And so, like, for the session I did yesterday, is that the two dogs were totally opposite, but each one gave her something she needed in her life.
Amazing.
And it's just that they come and they find us. Like, we think we choose them. No, guess what? They find us.
Isn't that
And
amazing?
it's so funny. I was doing a session for a woman, and I said, well, this horse you bought isn't the horse that you went to buy. And she said, oh my God, that's what happened. She says, I had set up this thing. I flew down to see this horse. And she goes, I told them, I wrote it. I told them I was going to come the next day to finish the deal. And then someone said, oh, you should look at this horse. She said, I didn't come home with the horse I went down for. I came with the other one. And that's because the animals are coming to us for whatever reason we need to be, and they'll find their way to us somehow.
You bet they do. And I can't
Yeah.
tell you how Native American that is. I'm Cherokee and Lenape, and I've tried to explain to people, um, who don't quite understand. I mean, if you think back to the tradition of a lot of indigenous people, wherever that may be, they are more in tune with nature. And one of the traditional ways of, say, a young brave, when it comes time to where you go in where all the wild horses are, and you've got to pick a horse, this is how they do
Yeah.
it. They sit cross legged and they just wait in quiet and let the horse come to them. The horse chooses them. And
Well,
and that's
that's
just,
interesting.
isn't that amazing? And
Well, that's what happened to me, how I started this.
how cool. Well, how did you get started? Tell us that.
Well, yeah. So it was funny because as a child, I had this thing where I always had answers, and I'm going like, how do I know this stuff? And
Mm.
so what I felt is that I was sort of an old soul, and I had there's wonderful spirit guides around us, and I just felt that they were just providing me information. But I just you sort of close it off because it doesn't fit into life. And then when I was 25, I tried a couple psychics, and whenever I'd see them, they say, "Oh, you're so intuitive," and I go, "Well, great, but what does that mean?"
Uh-huh.
And then I had a horse of my own, and then I had a dog and a cat, and I loved them, but I never I talked to them like most people talk to their pets. I didn't have um, I didn't know what I could do then, that now. And then so it was 18 years ago, and I was on a workshop, and it was for a woman from Arizona who has a sort of a ranch down there, and she does courses on moving horses with energy rather than through talking to them or lead ropes or whatever. And it's a way to empower yourself through energy. And I went on it not because it was for me, but because I had a horse that was a thoroughbred and just wanted to be able to work with him better. And so I went on the course, and there was other people there, and so what you just mentioned was so neat is because when we went there, there was 14 of us, and we had to sit there and go pick a horse we want to use in the round pen to see which one we want to use. And there was 5 horses, and so everybody went up and looked at the horses and decided which one they would use. And when I went up, and you had to have a little notepad because you were taking notes the whole time. And when I went up, the first horse, I started to get these thoughts in my head. And the first one was like, "Who are you to judge me?" And I'm looking around going, "Who's talking to me?" So I'm looking at the other, people in the course and going, "Are you talking to me?" And they're looking at me like I'm nuts. And then I got more information. I just writing the stuff. And then I went to the next horse and it gave me some information about that its sight of one eye wasn't good. And I just started writing and I had no idea what I was doing. So then when we went to sit down with Linda, the instructor, and she said, "Okay, I want you to know which horse you picked and why." And the first person talked and said, "Well, I took this horse because it came up and nuzzled me." And then the next person talks and they said, "Well, I took this one because, it when I came to give it grass, it sort of whinnied." And I went, "Okay, great." So when she gets to me and I'm going, "Well, I didn't get anything like that." I have this. And I started to read her the first horse. And she said, "Oh my God, Dale, keep going." And then I read the notes from the second horse. And everybody around there's looking at me like, what
Yeah.
did she get? Right. And so it started that way. And then the next day was the round pen day. And we're all sitting like sort of like half a block away from where the round pen is, watching whoever's in at their turn. And they're in there for about half an hour to an hour. And I start writing. And animals talk fast, so I'm writing really quickly and I'm just getting information. And so when each person would come out, Linda would look and ask everybody what they thought. And she came to me and I said, "Well, guess what? I got weird stuff again." And so that's when she said to me, "Well, Dale, you're one of the best animal communicators I've worked with." And I went, "What am I?"
Mm.
so,
Yeah. And
and
you're just
so it's
shocked. You're shocked when you get that label. You're thinking, what? It's amazing. It's just amazing.
Yeah, and so I talked to her about it, and then what happened is I'm going, "I'm not sure, like I'm really not sure." And so it was interesting because what I did is the woman that owned that barn, she had me back to work with one of her horses, and I went, "Well, I don't know, I'll try it. I don't know if I do it or not." And I went and I got some information. She said, "Oh my God, that explains it all." So she made a change that was suggested from the horse, and because this horse was way out in a paddock by itself, it was lonely and stuff, and so she emailed me and said, "Oh my God, what a change." And she said, "I never would have thought of that." So, but it was something because I had a successful career. I worked for a television station and I was in the media for 20 years in the midst of this. And I'm just going, okay, I didn't really talk about it because what you're doing now wasn't really accepted 18 years ago,
Mm.
right? It wasn't something
True.
where people could understand. So I was more where I didn't talk about it.
Right.
And so it's just where I'd sort of keep it in the back pocket. And if someone heard about me, then, and I had a website made, but it wasn't really something I promoted. I was always about, well, hey, because people would understand when they say, "What do you do?" I say, "Oh, I'm at a TV station. I produce features." They go, "Got it." If I said this job, they would go like, "Are you crazy?"
Yep.
Or, so, um, and then I spoke at a couple of shows and the shows would have me because I looked professional because of my background. And so I wasn't sort of, and this sounds terrible, but you know how they expect sometimes people to be a bit freakish if they're a bit weird.
Hmm.
So they thought that I would give a new image to it. So it's something where I just finally, like it just got more powerful and powerful. And then people asked me if I could do dogs and I went, "I don't know." And then I realized like I'd answer questions for them. So it's acceptance. And what I've noticed since probably the last 8 years since I've totally gone into it fully, I just believe that um, the sessions are so different now because I trust and I accept. So even though the information might not make sense to me, I write it. And then when I share it with the owner, they'll laugh or cry because it resonates and it's true.
Yeah. And that's just it. I think watching the videos that you've done and a few other things, that's what happens. At first, the owner sits down and they're excited. They want to know. And I don't think that one owner, if you want to use that, let's just use that. I'm not trying to be, you
Yeah.
know, to the pets. But when that person sits down and says, "Oh, I'm finally going to get to hear, what my puppy thinks or something," I think you see a gradual emotional change come over the person. because they realize when you're speaking to them that you really are speaking what the pet is telling you. And you watch that emotion come over, and they just, you can't help but get chills. Of
Well,
course that's
and
right.
that's
How did you know that he lost that blue ball and we've not been able to find that? I'm just making stuff up now, but things
yeah.
that you would never know that
And
pet.
that's why I don't want pictures or anything, because so for example, I was doing a session. This woman bought a session for her parents because she just thought it was something they could need, and I don't know why. So I set up the parents with the time, and the video conference call, which I use because it records so that they can listen to it afterwards.
Hmm.
It's theirs to listen to, and I sit down for a couple hours before the session starts, and I start writing my notes. And in there, I've got to see. So the cat's name is Ashley. I've got to see Ashley's eye. Now, Ashley had passed on, but it didn't matter. It was still able to give it to me. So it let me know beforehand. The woman slept with the collar under her pillow.
Oh.
That she'd built a shrine on their mantelpiece with pictures and the ashes and everything.
Mm.
And but that the woman was in such grief.
Hmm.
So when I do the call and I mentioned about the eye, she said, "Did my daughter send you a picture?" And I went, "No, I'm just saying this is what the cat brought up so that when I connected with it."
Right.
And then when I talked about the collar to the pillow, she goes, "Oh my God, I do." And the shrine, yes, I do.
Hmm.
And I said, so I talked to her husband. I said, "Oh, you still see Ashley the cat, don't you?" And he goes, "Yeah, I look at the fireplace and she's there." And I said, "And you feel it?" He goes, "Yeah, I feel her jumping on the bed."
Yes.
And then when I talked to the wife, she goes, "I feel nothing." I said, "Well, you're in such grief.
Right.
And until you get rid of this grief, this cat's not going to come to you." But it's just that this is where they will describe themselves and share things that I wouldn't know. And they'll do funny little things like, you know, I'll give you another weird example, which is one that I like to use because I don't need to understand what I write. So when I'm writing the notes, I'm doing it. The one from Alaska and two cats. The cats start off with that they don't like tattoos.
Hmm.
And I go, "Huh, okay." And then when I continue to write, they let me know that their home environment is this beautiful, warm, loving place.
Hmm.
And then with a bang and a thump, it changes to chaos. And okay, I'm writing other notes, but those are just the highlights to explain this. So when I start the call with the woman and I said, "Okay, first thing off, they don't like tattoos." And she said to me, "Well, you're wrong. And I didn't get them tattooed. Their ears are fine, nothing on them."
Right.
And I went, "Well, that's weird, but that's what they bring up." And then I talked about the home environment. And she said, "Oh, yeah, my husband works 3 weeks away, comes home for 2 weeks." And she says, "So he throws open the door and drops his luggage." And I said, "Well, that's the bang and the thump. So by any chance, does he have tattoos?"
Ah.
And she goes, "Oh, yeah, he has arm sleeve tattoos."
Yep.
And I said, "Well, I have bad news for you, but your husband, the cats don't like your husband."
Hmm.
She goes, "Well, he hates them too." And I said, "So let me guess, you had the cats before?" And she goes, "Yes." So that's why it's weird what they
Yep.
give me, but they want to describe that to let her know, right? That one, I had connected, but two is that how they felt about him.
Right.
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 Yeah. Yeah.
100%. Because
Yeah.
it's just like anything else. I tell people all the time, if you're getting a reading from a medium or a psychic, and I'm not saying you are, I know you're a communicator, it's different, but it's the same thing. We're reading energy.
Yeah.
And when you're excited about something and you say something like that, they don't like tattoos, you might not connect with it now. Write it down, like you said, record it, play it back, because usually a couple of days, maybe a week, or even a little longer, it'll click. That's what they meant. Because we're not seeing it the same as they are, or they might describe it differently. It's the same as communicating with anything. And
Yeah.
that's the most important part. It's just try to see it. I do that all the time. I try to look around. I have been around animals all my life. And like you said, they all came in at the times I needed. They've always been my best friends. And I always try to look at it from their vantage point. Like they must think I'm absolutely crazy. What am I doing? And I'm the type of person that will go out and I get excited just looking for a new toy or a new this or a new that. And, just as excited to bring it home as you would to a kid. Look what I got you. I hide it behind my back. Look at what I got. And they know what I'm doing. It's like, oh, what has she got? You can tell you're getting, that excitement, from them. I mean, I could
Yeah.
bring in a bag of food. that I hadn't been able to find for a while that was an old favorite. And just holding up the bag, it's like, what? What is she? Oh my gosh. And they're up and they're coming. And then you just hold up one, or it's not the same. I'm telling you, they recognize it. We
Oh
don't
yeah.
give animals enough. I've hated that my whole life. I have a hard time watching old westerns and anything where you're using mules to carry things, or the things, the way we've treated horses over our history is just an abomination. And people just like to think that, oh, they don't think like we do, they don't feel like we do, and I'm like, that's a bunch of bunk. And all this stuff you hear about, ain't they don't have souls, and I'm like, oh, stop it, I can't even talk to you, you're so close-minded. I mean, that's
Yeah.
just been me my whole life. And I the first time when I started thinking about this, and I've had Rob Guttrow on, and he does a lot of animal communication. Most of his is with animals that have passed, and he's done a lot of rescue and things. And we talked about just being able to relieve a little of that grief. When a loved one passes, and that's what they are, they're loved ones.
Yeah.
It's just a wonderful, wonderful gift to be able to give people here. You had mentioned grief earlier in your conversation, and that the grief kind of blocks them from getting through. This is something we've talked about on this show before too, and I'm very careful in how I say, because nobody can tell you how to grieve. And I remember as a child when I lost my mother, I heard that, and the grief holds them back. What does that mean? And I'm thinking, like an anchor, like a weight, or are they just staying because they're concerned for us and they don't want to leave us and move on? And I think the latter is probably the most true with animals. What do you think?
Well, I think the thing for them is like so animals will come around and give us signs they're here. Same as people that have passed on. And the problem is though is that they don't want to come to someone that is in such pain because they don't want to hurt them more.
Ah,
So what I always say is that change your thought pattern. Like it was so funny. I was dealing with this other woman whose cat had just passed a month before, and I said to her, instead of being in this thing, and hers was grief as much as she felt that she made a bad decision on when putting the cat down, right?
mm-hmm.
I'll use that term, but she made the wrong decision, or she wasn't sure. And I said, so you're living in this place of pain, so the cat doesn't want to come through to you. I said, if you change your thoughts and just look at Bella the cat's picture, and you just look at it and you just be you enjoy. And I said, so what did you used to do with your cat that you loved? And she goes, well, I sang to it every day. I said, start singing again. I
Yeah.
said, and what you'll notice is the cat will realize that you're in a different place. You're not in this place of absolute devastation. You're in a place of acceptance of having it around. And I said, and you'll notice she'll let you know she's there.
Mm-hmm.
So she was so cute. She emailed me a couple of weeks later, and she said, hey Dale, the session wasn't what I thought it was going to be, which is normal. She said, I thought, like I was expecting stuff. I wasn't expecting to cry and laugh as much. And
Mm-hmm.
she says, but I just want you to know that Bella's been up to what you said. And she goes, my husband, daughter, and I, she said, we can hear like her collar's hanging on the wall on a key hook. And she said, and we can hear the bells. And she says, but we're
Oh,
all sitting in the living room. She
right.
said, and it happens individually when we're there. And she said, you also said she'll be moving things. She says, we'll go in and there'll be boxes or things moved.
Uh-huh.
And she goes, so now we just laugh. She says, but it's when I started singing to Bella again. So
Mm-hmm.
this is the thing, if we let go of our grief and remember what these beautiful animals bring to us and are still bringing to us, then we'll notice the signs.
So cool. Just raise that vibration. It's all about
Yeah.
vibration. And, I think that's awesome. I have a little story, and I won't give you the name just in case somebody else tells you, you know. But it wasn't very long ago. And my husband, when we met, he had two cats, and I had one. And he the male cat that he had a bit of a limp because he had like kind of a minor stroke, so he had a little bit of a limp there toward the end. And his thing was to get up on the bed, and you could feel he was just so light on his feet. Some cats are thumps. he was
Yep.
he was
Yep.
he was light as a feather, little booger. And but you could feel that step hop. You know what I mean? On the
Yep.
covers, you could feel that. Well, when he passed, and it was, it's always such a trauma. Um, it was, I want to say the second night after, he had that little ritual come on, and he would curl into the legs of my husband on top of the blankets. That was his ritual. And I felt it. I felt the light as a feather, and it was dark. And I'm such a believer. It's like second nature now, you know. And I felt it, and I just kind of smiled. And then I noticed there was all four. Ah. Instead of the step, step, hop, it was step, step, step. And I'm like, you little booger, you healed that quick? Gosh, takes people so long, you know. This is what I'm
Yeah.
thinking. And I waited for him to come up, and I felt a little curl. And then I said, okay, buddy, I know you're here because he needs you, because he, you know, he was in bad shape. And I said, thanks for coming to comfort him, but don't stay here. I don't want you to get stuck, because I don't know if animals get, you know, get stuck if they wait
Yeah.
too long or whatever. But um, it was just that quick that I realized everything that was going on. I'm like, gosh, you healed so quick. It's amazing, you know?
Mhm.
And I've just always had that thought too of people have asked me, well, you do think, you know, because if we talk about human beings, we talk about ghosts all the time on this show, of course. And, you know, human beings that, for whatever reason, decide not to cross over and hang for a minute or get stuck or confused or whatever it may be. And
Yeah.
I've always said, I just don't think it's that way with animals in most conditions. I can imagine there's some erratic times where animals can be very confused because they just don't feel like they have, like I said earlier, those human burdens, you know?
Well, so yeah, and that's what I like to say. So when I talk to people about it, I say, humans, we get too involved in the past and
Hmm.
the future. We don't live in the present. In the past, you know, like say for example, you're a young girl and you get dumped by your boyfriend, you just live in that and you live in that and you live in that, right? And you can't get over it.
Hmm.
Animals use their past as experiences,
Hmm.
right? So it's something that for like safety later on. So like, you know, my horse used to love going in the trails and we'd ride and he was fine, loved dogs. And then one day after like 10 years of riding him, one dog came up and started to bite so we'll call it the ankles of the horse, and which made me go down. So then but he didn't hate dogs. But the next time we went out, if a dog came close to that area again, he'd start like going up on like pulling his legs up.
Right.
So animals live in the present. So when they leave, the reason they don't harbor around, to me, this is just my thought, like ghosts, is because there's nothing that they have to clean up,
Uh huh.
right?
Yeah.
Always in the present. So they just go and they're still around. So
Hmm.
they're away in a way that their energy's still here, but it's all always in the positive, loving, kind, supportive way.
Right. Right. And I think it's also, too, um, their love connection to us. You know,
Mm.
a lot of times I get that whole thing where, well, you know, if animals, you know, can come back as ghosts, animals do this, or animals revisit, you know, visitation wise, you know, why isn't Kentucky Fried Chicken haunted with a bunch of chicken ghosts or something? And I'm like, you don't understand. There's a love connection. You
Yeah.
know, if there's not a connection with something, because we've all heard, you know, many times I do a lot of uh, you know, rescue on battlefields and things like that for soldiers and things. It's a long story, but anyway, but you'll hear horse sounds, and you'll hear, well, that may be residual, or it very well may be a horse that's come back and things like that. But I just don't. I don't think they just hang around for whatever you know, for nothing. And I often feel for animals that don't have that connection. Um, I don't know if you believe in reincarnation at all, or if animals can come back again as other animals. Or I've had people on the show that have said that a lot of times, like sometimes a cat will come back that used to be something else in the humans early times, you know, as a child or something. They came back around. I'm open minded to just about anything because I don't know
Yeah.
enough to say that can't happen. If you know what
Well,
I
it's
mean.
yeah, and I believe totally because you know I do spirit guide sessions as well, and so those
Okay.
are people that have been with us in previous lifetimes
Hmm.
who decide it's too much work coming back as a human, so they stay on the other side and just guide us. But
Absolutely.
it, yeah, it was funny. I did one session for this woman, and it was for her cat, and it was hilarious. And I can't remember, it might be on one of my videos, but it was hilarious because I said, oh my God, this cat, this thing used to be like in a previous lifetime with you, and it was like a lover or a partner. And I said, so I wanted to come back to you this lifetime, but you're already married, so it came back as a cat. And I said, but it's so peeved that it's a cat, because I said, does it sit at your dining room table like it thinks it's a person? She says, oh my God, it does. And I said, it's not really happy when you and your husband affection. She goes, oh my God, that explains things. Because she said, whenever we want to, make love, she says, we have to lock the cat out of the bedroom
Uh-huh.
or wherever we are. And I said, well, I said, because he doesn't want to watch it. He doesn't want to know.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, they usually, as I said earlier, animals come into our life for reasons, but this was hilarious because yeah, like there's always reincarnation and we never know what's going to turn up because, it's what us humans need
Mhm.
at whatever time in our life. So yeah, that was just like, she was
Just
just blown away
amazing.
because she's going, oh my God.
That's Oh my gosh, that's what I mean about the wonderment of all this. I mean, even if we think, I've been probably researching, you can say as a young child, because I started seeing things as a young child and I always wanted to know what was up. And it was funny you said at the beginning, when you had it, you couldn't talk 20 years ago as easily about this as you can now. We've opened up a little bit. And that's the same for all of us. Anybody that started young. Um, but to clip into what you just said, I just remembered as you were telling that story that I sat down once, and I have a lot of friends in this. Believe me, it's all over the place. And I sat down in front of one. Just most of the time now, if I do that, I'll just sit down and go, "Tell me what I need to know." I'm not even going to ask because they're just going to come through and tell you whatever you need at that time anyway, or what they're able
Yeah.
to come through and tell you. And I sat down and she started off with, I can't remember exactly how it started off, but she says, you've got a white cat, like a tortoise. And I'm thinking, no. And I'm trying to go back because I've done a lot of animal rescue and a lot of fostering. And my gosh, if you knew. And I'm trying to go back, and she's going, no, go way back, way back, way back, way back. And I'm like, oh gosh, how far? 'Cause I think when I was born, there was 25 cats on the farm. We had a lot of barn cats and stuff. And I'm trying to think, okay, tortoise. And she's bringing in little information at a time. Finally, it turns out I remember when I was like 4, 5 years old. This was so traumatic for me. I'll never forget this. I had taken a cat on a collar. I'll never do it again with a leash and a collar, never. But anyway, I was little. And I guess my grandparents let me walk out in the backyard with this kitten. It was just a kitten. And I remember it getting loose. And as you're 4 or 5 years old, nobody listens to you. You're dramatic and there's trauma, and I'm running in the house and nobody's helping. And the cat got loose with the collar and the leash on in the woods. Finally, when my mom got home, I have no clue how long it was, just eons, I'm sure it felt like. And we all went out and looked, and she got in the car and we looked, and I never found this kitten. And my whole life, I felt guilty that this kitten got with a collar, and I'm thinking about it growing and it getting tangled, and I'm just, oh God, it's just devastating to me. But I blocked it. I never told that story to anybody but my son.
Mhm.
And she brings this up, and I'm crying. I mean, it takes a
Mhm.
lot to get me. And she says the kitten, it went on for a while. The collar finally fell off. A man found it. The kitten, stayed with the man. It lived another 4 or 5 years. But here's the kicker. Now she's one of your spirit guides, and that's why you can never forget her. That's why when you dream about this kitten, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, now
Mhm.
that blew me away because she's
Yeah.
a spirit guide and she comes in and she does, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, that was a whirlwind for me. That's what I mean. We only have pieces to this puzzle, and we think we
Oh,
understand the pieces, and we don't even have the cover to the box or know how many or what the picture is. It's like this whole subject. It's amazing. Have you ever heard of animals being spirit guides to people like that?
oh yeah. And this is the thing. It's like I had one where, yeah, like I mean, I was doing a spirit guide session for someone, and I went, "Oh my God, there's a whole bunch of horses around you, and you used to be part of a, oh yeah, I can't remember what it's called." Um, and see, this is the thing too, is that they're not my sessions, so I can't. So sometimes I try and go grab the information. They go like, no, it's not yours. But it's like she was part of this, whatever you call it, when there's a group of horses that are part of a, um, um, like they're working together. And sort of like comrades. So there's an army where they're all in there. And, she was one of the animals and she was back. And I said, you really have this thing about military background. And she goes, oh, okay. And she says, I do. I have this feeling. She says, it's weird because that's why she ended up working with horses, was because I guess this connection to being a horse before.
Wow.
Yeah.
Isn't that
Now, I
amazing?
just want to, can I switch topics? Because
Sure.
who wants to talk.
You do whatever. It's my show's your show, honey. You say whatever
Okay,
you want to say.
It's just Mr. Dickens going like, okay, enough of this crap.
Is he? I told you he's got a mouth.
I know. I was going to use something else, but I didn't know whether I was allowed to swear on air.
He is a pistol. For the listeners, most of my listeners know Mr. Dickens because I'm always talking about Mr. Dickens, but he is a pistol, and we did our permission last night, and he looked at me, opened one eye, and he looked at me, and I felt like he's like, you got to be joking. Why do you keep dragging me into this mess for? I'm fine. I just want to sleep, But it was amazing. So you tell me, what did Mr. Dickens have to say to you?
Well, it was funny because as I said, I had another session this morning, a woman from South America, believe it or not, so it was early. And anyway, so when I was doing my thing with her, he's starting to talk to me. And I'm going like, excuse me, I'm busy trying to get information from a cat and a dog, not you right now. Can you leave me alone? He's going like, do you know who I am, type of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm going like, excuse me, can I just finish this? So, oh my God, he's full of personality.
Isn't he?
And,
do you know who I am?
Yeah, and so what I should mention too is all you gave me was his name. So Mr. Dickens, 10 years old, male, and orange tabby. That's all you gave me, which is all I want to know.
Yep.
But anyway, his personality is just exudes out of him. And then the best way I can describe him is he's like that good guy that everyone wants to know and be friends with. He's like, he's fun, he's entertaining. So he's like the party guy, but he's also the athlete. Like there's a combination of like 8 different things so that everybody wants to know him and be with him. But he's also caring and he's helpful and he's supportive and he'd have your back.
Oh gosh, yeah.
So he's just that type of guy, but it's funny. And then he goes, he's all that, but he also knows what he wants, and he'll let you know. Now I put brackets, AKA stubborn. He's also stubborn, but he doesn't want to put it that way. He just wants to say that he knows what he wants, and he's very sort of adamant about it. And he does tell you what, so
Yeah. Oh, adamant. Now, adamant. That's a great word. Stubborn and adamant. Absolutely. And he's all about. I mean, he's all about whatever. This is his house.
Oh, yeah. And that's what he knows. It's all about him. Now, the thing, too, is he let me know, did he come to, and this is weird, I've never used this word before, but did he come to, for a session, did he come to you in an unorthodox way? Like you didn't plan on getting him specifically, however you either getting him or it's something, because he's saying, like, she didn't know she was getting me, but boy, did she get me.
True.
And what a hand.
True. Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. And again, he picked me, much like the horse I told you about before, and most of my animals do. But he picked me, and I had to move. There was a lot of things going on. It was 11 tornadoes and just all kinds of crazy stuff. And I'm like, I had to find foster homes for other animals, but I said he has to stay with me. There's just no two ways. This is this. So, and he traveled. I mean, he's amazing. I'm not going to say anything, but he's amazing.
Yeah. Now you can't imagine not having in your life after that. And it's funny because so this is what I got. I said, it's like he turned your life upside down, like a 180 degrees, but in a fantastic way.
Yes. That's my boo. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's so funny because he's so he's got a huge ego, but he's not egotistical, if that makes sense. Yeah. Like, he's got this thing where he's confident and sure of himself, but it's not, where he's like too egotistical and a jerk about it. He just knows. And it's just this confidence exudes out of him.
Yeah. Oh, he knows.
Yeah.
And he tells me all the time. He'll come up and he'll start just talk. You know how a cat, I don't know if you've ever seen this. It's a thing on, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. It's going around for years. It was 2 cats just having a chat. And they'll sit there and they go, and they'll just answer people back and forth. That's what he does to me. It's like, you don't have a lap. Why do you not have a lap ready for me? Where's my blanket? What what are you thinking? This is his kind of things like, let's
Well,
get
that's
that now. You know,
yeah, that's what
that's
he
him.
says. He knows what he wants, and he will let you know. I
Yep.
said that. Like he lets
Yep.
you know whatever he wants.
Yeah, that's him.
Now, the other thing he says, he gives you so much that many humans can't even come close to.
Yeah, absolutely.
And but
100%.
and he's more in tuned. Like this is the funny thing is that like he's a cat being, but he's just more in tune than so many humans are.
Yep.
And so he's just like when he came into your life, he just gave you this whole different perspective.
Yep. Yep.
And he's just like, but the one thing he did bring up is that he goes, so do you look at him sometimes and wonder how much longer he's going to be around? Like, so not that he's going,
Yeah.
but do you have this little question niggling in your mind? Because he requests that you stop asking how long he'll be with you. Because I had to write in capital letters, he's only 10, so stop with it.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Thank you. Oh, okay. Now you got tears. Now you got
Okay.
real tears. Oh, God bless his little heart.
But
I
it's so
was
funny because when,
sitting on the bed yesterday and I called my son from work and I'm like, "Is Mr. Dickens okay?"
oh
He
my
says,
God.
what do you mean?" He's, I said, "You go in there and you wake him up." I am just, oh boy, did you? Oh, wait a second. I need a second.
But it's so funny because I had to use it he requests, but originally it was going like tell her. But it's just that he was a little more harsh than that. But it's just
I
that the
bet he
thing is that
was.
these. But I had to write in capitals. He's only 10 because it's like why the hell? So first of all,
Oh,
because of what you know. So second of all, so you know that he's never going to leave you. So what's
right,
your problem?
right.
And second of all, it's like why are you going to the future when it's about like this is where he's going like what the? So he's
Oh,
offended too because it's like well first of all
oh
I'm
God, he
young
would
so
be.
stop.
He would
Sorry.
be offended. Oh my gosh. I just had this conversation, I promise you, with him was it last night, night before. And I said, "I'm sorry I keep looking at you like that. This is my thing. I want to know, is there anything wrong? You know how you know, tell me if you're okay and I'll fix it. I'm an herbalist. He does all. And he just looks at me with one eye like, would you shut the bleep up? You're making me
Yeah.
nuts with this. This is what he's saying to me 2 nights ago. I swear the look I was getting. He's like,
Right. And
you
that's
know,
what he asked me to bring up. He said,
oh,
"Stop it."
oh God, he's got it.
So, but
Absolutely.
it's so funny. So it's so funny. So remember when I say about people. So like it's living in the present because why the hell
Yep.
are you going ahead? And what the thing to is think about is like say he lasts till 20 and you realize shit I wasted 10 years
Right.
thinking about what's going to happen to him and he's looking at him going like stop thinking there's something wrong because you're making me feel like I need to have something wrong to make you feel better.
That's what my son said. He's like, "What's wrong with you, Mom?"
Yeah.
And isn't it funny? We know this. We know this, but we can't. It's so hard because we can't do this for ourselves most of the time. I would be telling somebody else this, but now I need you to tell me. But I know it already. But I'm doing it. I mean,
Right.
we're human beings are
And
so
that
funny. But boy, did you
yeah.
get it? He's 10. He's absolutely 10, and this is
No,
exactly
he's only
only 10.
10.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So, and this
And
is
that's
where
an
too.
inside joke because we don't know how old he is. And I've been
Uh,
saying he's 10 for the past 2 years, 3 years, and I will only go to 10. And we're not going. It's just, that's an inside joke through you, from him to me. He's on to me.
okay. So this is the thing too, is
Oh,
that
God.
it's just like when they say stuff to me, it's because it's stuff that I believe their owners need to hear because
Hmm.
they might know it, but they just aren't listening to their own selves. And
True.
then so I feel like I give confirmation, plus I also give relief and I give like the feeling of okay, let it go or whatever it may be. So people are usually laughing and crying throughout the sessions, which go like minimum an hour, but hour and a half, because just what the pets share are just absolutely amazing and
Phenomenal.
hilarious.
When I play this for my son, I'm never going to live it down. Never going to live it down because that's so spot on. And I'm not saying that because you're my guest. I'm not saying it. I would be polite and I would go, yeah, no, he's about 20. Because, like I said, it's not a gotcha show.
Yeah.
You are so spot on. It's not even funny. And like I said, the fact that he's using an inside joke with the 10.
Yeah.
because again, we just talked about this not too long ago. My husband asked, "Well, how old is he?" And I'm like, "He's only 10. He's 10. He's only 10." You know, it's so funny. Oh, oh, Dale, that is hysterical. Oh gosh, that's so funny.
So the thing too is that so what I believe when I do sessions, usually the animals are more concerned about their owners too.
Right.
So they'll share stuff, but it's just that they want their owners to feel better, and they will give me stuff about their owner's life, like things that happened in their childhood, whatever it may be. But I have no idea. Like I'm just a conduit, so I never have any idea where the sessions are going to go.
Hmm.
I don't know what they're going to say. I can't use like even the words they'll share with me. Like one dog told me it won the lottery. And I'm going, you what? I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. So, but anyway, I write it down and I shared it with the owners and I said, okay, so it let me know that its beginning of its life was rough. And there's sometimes where I end up in tears having to share what the animal's been through.
Right. Oh
Um,
gosh, yes.
because sometimes the owners do want to know or don't want to know. So I'm sharing this, and I just said the dog feels it won the lottery when it came to you. And the woman laughed and she says, well, guess what? My husband says to the dog every day when we're giving it its raw food, and said, boy, did you win the lottery coming to this house.
Beautiful.
So it's
Beautiful.
just where they will give me things that just are clues so that it's like, okay, the animal gets it. So when we think, do the animals hear us? Absolutely. They get our thoughts before we can even finish them.
It's
Oh,
amazing. And
yeah,
he is so in tune with me,
yeah,
and I'll ask. I talk to him. As far as I'm concerned, he's smarter than I am, as you see.
yeah.
He's far and above, and he's just just my best bud. He's my best bud, and he's one of those in the household where um, the husband says something to the wife like, if there was a flood, she'd save the dog before she ever even thought about me, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Oh, that's Mr. Dickens. In
yeah.
fact, I mean, are you kidding me? We once, I don't know if you know anything about Sandy, but when it hit, I'm right there. I'm on the shore in New Jersey when Sandy hit, and my husband was going through a lot of stuff. He had to go to surgery like the next day. I mean, he was taking stuff to calm him down for the surgery, let alone here comes a hurricane. So we
Yeah.
basically spent this hurricane with our car back up against a brick wall, and I'm just watching transformers blow. My husband's passed out with pillows and blankets because of the medicine he had taken. And Mr. Dickens and I just sat there and watched the whole thing in a car outside in a hurricane, and we're just
Mhm.
chill. We're just chill.
Yeah.
And I'm like, look at the crazy, the car drivers trying to get through that flood. Well, they're not going to make it. And he'll look at me like, yep. I mean, it's just that's he's a cool breeze. I'm telling you. And I
Well,
tell
that's what.
everybody he's smarter than me.
Yeah, and so this is when I say when your life changed like 180. It's just like he just came in and gave you a totally different perspective because things were different for you, and he just came in and gave you this lighter attitude
Hmm.
and this thing about joy of life and just like just having someone by your side. And that's when he said like being caring, supportive, and have your back
Hmm.
is he was just there for you. And it's so funny because people say, well, can an animal do that? You know
Yes.
what it is? It's the emotions they provide where you feel something so different because of what they give. And so it's not just their physical presence. They can still give you that, when they're not there. But what these animals give us is just beyond measure.
It is absolutely
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Absolutely true. Because, like I said, I've had a lot of animals, and I have a connection with everything. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
there's you have a connection, but then you have animals that are a little more aloof. I mean, I heard that you did an interview with an interview, a session with a rabbit once, and it was like I wasn't really getting a lot. Well, then again, you got to think about it. What's the input for that pet? I can't imagine being a rabbit stuck in a cage or I hate that. Oh, I hate that so much. I just want to let everybody go.
Yeah.
And I can imagine you're only going to get the input that they get, and if you have an animal that's like say one of these little I call them pocketbook dogs, they go everywhere, and
Oh, purse dogs, I call them.
your purse dogs, yeah, it's like they're everywhere and they're going, and I'm like, are they really enjoying themselves? Are they? I had a fostered a Shih Tzu once, and he was like that. He wanted to go everywhere, and if you left him home
Mhm.
and you went out, wherever you last sat, something was going to happen. He was going to pee on it. He was going to destroy the cushion. He was going to chew something up of yours.
Yeah.
Specifically, this dog was so smart. He didn't want to stay at home. He wasn't like. And that's just it. If we can get anything else across to people, of course, anybody listening to this show is going to have that kind of connection into the loving, part of all this anyway. But think about how your animals are. I mean, you're going to get a dog and you're going to crate it all day and then come home and spend an hour with it. It's like people have kids and they drop them off, they need a little more. You make sure you're loving them, make sure you're spending time and talking with them, and and because look at Mr. Dickens, for Pete's sake. He's got all these thoughts. He's got all of this. He understands. He sees more probably about me than most people I'm related to or friends. You know,
Yeah.
and
I said that he's gives you so much more than many humans.
yes,
But so, and this is the thing too, is that to understand too, we always have to let our animals know, like they're part of the family. And the reason I use the owners term, as I mentioned earlier, is because the hierarchy. I want to have the animal tell me what they are in the household, whether it's a BFF or whether it's it's a daughter son type of relationship or siblings or whatever it may be. Sometimes they'll call itself a partner. They describe what it is, but it's just that always these animals are just um, if you don't treat it like a pet, but they're part of the family, they're so different. And they'll even let me know, like I had one animal I was doing that it let me know that its previous life, it had been contained
oh,
and that it was so ecstatic to be where it was now. And I went, okay, what does that mean, contained? And it just sort of said it was not part of a family, it was not loved, it wasn't taken care of properly. And when I was talking to the people, they said, well, yeah, actually, we took the dog. We found at our vet's office when we were taking our cat in. And we weren't planning on getting a dog, but when we asked what this little cute little brown poodle was doing there, the vet said, well, the people that owned it wanted it put down because they bought it for breeding and it couldn't breed.
oh, oh
And so the
my,
vet wouldn't do it, so he took that. And so this is where the dog described that its life had been contained. It wasn't part of the family. And so they know, they know what's happened to them. So they're so happy when they get into a place where they're actually get to contribute and be part of it. So the most important thing I want people to always take out of it is always talk to your animal like it's another one of your children or family members. So if you're thinking of moving or, you're thinking of having a child, if you're thinking of like funny thing, even I was having cats tell me that the owners were thinking of going hardwood.
mm-hmm,
And the people I was doing the session for go, why did that come up? And I go, because they don't want it.
mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
they think they're going to slide all over. Like they're part of the house. They should be part of the decision. So it's always talking to your animals.
It's absolutely true. And I mean,
Yeah.
even silly things like, Christmas. And I remember where I was working and I was trying to come up with the next big thing because, as far as I'm concerned, he expects Christmas. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no, this is, this is this cat, And I'm like, you don't understand. I'm not worried about what I'm getting my husband or, my sons. They're taken care of. But my cat expects Christmas and it better be something big. And last year it was huge. And this year I got to outdo myself. And it was just so funny. And the only one who really gets it is my husband's fine with it. But my son is like, you don't understand. You really think I've got to sand this? We took a cabinet and built him an enclosed litter box, like a what do you call it? It's like a cabinet that a stereo or TV would sit on, but it's three tiers. And I'm talking to my son, and I'm like, you don't understand. There's three tiers. This one's going to be a heating pad. This one's going to be a fluff thing, so we can watch the birds and everything. And I want to, and I'm going around. He goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm buying a sensor light. He's not going to go in there in the dark. It's got to have a light that comes on when he goes in." And my husband's like, "Oh my gosh." We did it, and he gave it to him Christmas and unwrapped it and everything. And he just went around to each part of it. It was like, okay, this is cool. I'm digging this. And, and now he's on the thermal pad that heats up so he can, you talk spoiled. And my husband says he doesn't have,
I want to come be an animal in your
that's
house.
what everybody says. You don't understand. Here's your flannel shirt and your tie. Oh, Dickens, look, here comes Chris.
Oh gosh,
I
I
know.
know.
Isn't that crazy? But you know what? This is the thing. It brought me as much joy
Yep.
as it's obviously bringing him. But it's like how many different spots to sleep. But I think just so he doesn't disappoint me, he takes like an hour nap in each place. Goes
Hmm.
around throughout the day and sleeps in each thing and then goes back around like he's telling time. You can tell what time it is by where he's sleeping. It's like a clock.
Yeah.
It's so weird. But why not? Because it brings you joy too. Like I
Well,
said, going to the store, you're trying to find him something, to play with. And I think sometimes he just plays with it for a second just so he doesn't disappoint me. He's like, okay, I'm done. You know,
yeah.
but
Well,
it's so funny.
and the thing is that you believe, you know how much he's given you, and you just want to reciprocate.
Hmm.
And that's the thing, is that it's whatever makes you feel that you're giving him back what he's given you.
Hmm.
So it could be, hey, I used to buy my dog and cat stockings at Christmas,
Oh,
and
sure.
I bought ornaments for them that were on the tree so that they each had their own. Of course, they each played with the wrong one. The cat played with the dogs and the dogs with the cat. But no, but it was just, they were part of my family, and my dog would go with me over to my parents for Christmas. We'd have Christmas morning to open presents, and then dinner. That dog was there because he was
Hmm.
part of the family. So yeah, I get it. It's funny. Like, everybody does their own things, but it's what makes us feel we're giving our pets enough to feel they're appreciated because of what they give us.
Right. And then, to have someone like you with your gift. And gosh, I think we all wish we had it. I mean, everybody says that to me. I wish I could do what you do. And I'm like, no, not always. Because, like you said, you're
Yeah.
walking down the street and everybody wants to talk to you at once. I go into a hospital, and can you imagine the amount of,
Yeah.
humans in trouble in that situation? And you just, oh gosh, or for me, restaurants are bad because I can tell these people are going through a divorce. This one over here is lonely. Oh my gosh, the
Yeah.
energy over here is so draining, and over here, I mean, I get it. It's not easy, but to give what you just gave me, to give someone a little peace of mind. Like the jingle bell, on the collar, and now she's singing to the kitty, and the kitty feels like she can come around a little bit more, and that's just so awesome. If we
Yeah.
can do that for each other, it's just amazing. And they do, pets and animals do this for us all the time. I'm sure that, cardinals on the bird feeder don't realize how much they bring to our day just showing up.
Hmm.
Just and it's a beautiful world out there if we just choose to see it. And I wish I could go around and talk to them all and find out, okay, is it the food? Would you rather have this? Would you rather do this, or does sounds bother you? I thought something you said too before I forget was so intriguing. Um, when we get company over, they
Hmm.
might change how they react because you've changed how you're
Oh
reacting.
yeah. Yeah.
Your energy. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I thought that was so neat.
Well, it's so animals are really good. Like, and it's so funny because each animal, I shouldn't generalize, but animals have like, so it's funny. I did a session yesterday where the one dog was brilliant and the other was a little more simplistic. No, sorry, not that. Is that one was really brilliant and the other one was more where it just had an easy status quo type of attitude. That would be a
Okay.
better way to describe it.
Okay.
And so, but the thing is that one of them would change and the personality would change when this one person came over. But what I got from it was that this dog had been in a situation where it had been passed around a lot,
Mm.
and so it had been sort of manhandled or whatever. But there was one person in the process that made it feel safe. So whenever this person came over, that energy matched to this person that had. And so I found out when I was telling a woman this, she said, "Yes, I got it from a rescue out of LA, and it had probably been to a couple of foster homes, had been to something. So somewhere in there, it had this dog had someone that cared for it and made it feel safe. So whenever this person came over to this woman's house now, no one else would have attached to it. As soon as this person came over, it would jump on the couch with them, sit beside it, lie in its lap, and she goes, "I don't know why it does it to there." And I said, "It's because it reminds this dog of the one person it felt safe with." So
Hmm.
it's not that it didn't love the woman as well. It's just that it was the only other person
Hmm.
that this woman's friends that it actually bonded with.
Right.
And it's because of the energy that had. So when people come over, they will sort of change. It's also funny. I say, like, I was dealing with one woman. I said, like, she was single. She was probably like 30. And I said, don't take your dog in the first couple of dates, wait and third date and stuff and see how the dog is around the guy, and then you'll see whether he's worthwhile or not,
True.
because they're such a good judge. So
True.
they will change according to who's with them. And if someone comes over that's nervous or anxious, it'll affect the animal.
Right. Oh, I so
Yeah.
believe that. Two things
Yeah.
out of that is also when we're having company, depending on what it is, if it's planned company, our anxiety level goes up, our stuff changes, and the animal's going to pick that up. So
Yeah.
what is she upset about? What's going on? Why are things getting changed? She's all over the place. I mean, that does affect them. Keep in mind, they're picking up on everything. They're picking their sensors are just like hot wired for this. And another thing was so funny is when you said that, I had a dog, oh, bless his heart, Oso. Gosh, talk. He was like the dog version of Dickens. And my ex husband was a subcontractor. And a lot of times he would have people come over the house and, like he was going to do hiring for the spring or summer or whatever. And I could tell by how that dog acted when people came over. And I'd look at him and go, don't hire those three.
Yeah.
And he'd just look at me and go, what do you mean? I'm like, Oso doesn't like him. I mean, he
Yeah.
just the way he looked at him, the way he looked at me. And I'm telling you, not one time, and there was a lot of opportunities here. I mean, I'm going to say up into the 20s, even close to 30 amount, over the years. And the dog was never wrong. If he hired somebody I told him not to, sure enough, it was trouble. I mean, that dog was the best judge of character I've ever seen in my life. I should have listened to him about the ex-husband, but. But isn't
Yeah.
that amazing though? Because they have such a perception of just it's amazing. Animals are just, gosh, they're the
Yeah, but
best.
you know why on that? It's the same as like when I meet people sometimes I'll go like I remember meeting someone at some point going, okay, I don't want to spend any time with her. And a friend said, like, how do you know you spent like you just said hello? And it's just sometimes the energy comes off. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's just animals don't have all these other, influences. Well, how do they look and how do they smell and
Right.
how are they dressed and all that stuff?
Uh-huh.
Is they just use their senses
Pure
to
energy.
judge or not to judge, that's wrong, to senses to be able to decide whether it's someone, because they're always sort of fight and flight mode, right?
Right.
Like which they want to do or safety. And so for them, is it, like, okay, so what's their energy? So with their senses, and they go, okay, so are they someone I'm comfortable with, someone that I'm edge with? So they don't let these other things judge get in the way of their sort of perception of the people. So that's why they're so much better at being able to figure out what individuals are like rather than us humans.
True. So true. And we've talked ourselves out of that. I think we're all born with an instinct. People ask me all the time, well, intuition or this or that, or, I think some are stronger than others, but I think we all still have that gut instinct on things and we talk ourselves out of it. And, when you see animals, of course, an abused animal is going to react to everybody in a certain way. But even in that case, I've been able to, go in, turn my hand down and just talk, feel my energy, read my intent.
Yeah.
I got you. And I've done that with ferals in the woods. I live right on the edge of the woods, in water. And I remember this one, of course, I called him Old Tom. But when I first moved in here, to the development, you can never tell, how long's that cat been there. I mean, I could tell that was a street cred cat. This cat had some street credibility, I mean, he had scar and this and that. And you could just tell he was an old Tom, ruled the neighborhood. And he would
Hmm.
never get too close to the food. But if I put it out and I'd look at him, I go, man, it's cool. Come on, it's all right. I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna close the thing. You can come at your own. He would do that, and I was glad that he stayed standoffish because I don't want him getting near anybody that's gonna hurt him. That I understood.
Right.
And I remember this one night it snowed, and I hadn't seen him in a while. And I'm sitting in the house and I felt something, and it was dark, and I turned on the back porch light and I could see his green eyes in the woods. And I'm like, oh man, I wish I could get you someplace warm. Just if I could only do that for you. But I knew by his energy it was never going to happen. Never going to
Hmm.
happen. There was nothing I could do. You put out a house, nothing. He wasn't going near anything. He had no trust left in him. And I said, I had a feeling. And I went in and I got some stuff and I heated it up and I put it out there. And I saw him eat, and then he walked away and he stopped and he turned around and he looked at me and he sent me this message. I knew it was going to be his last meal. I
Hmm.
just knew it. I mean, I got maybe something similar to what you get. It was just a thought. Thank you for helping.
Yeah.
This is my last. I'm done now. I'm done.
Hmm.
And he never came back. He was gone.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just if we listen, that still small voice within us, there are thoughts, and just clear it all out and just try to connect into that energy. You know what I mean? Just don't block it. Sometimes we try so hard we block it, but just
Yeah.
let it happen and we pick up. And I think if people do that, they will pick up little things here and there, you know. And I just think it's amazing what you do. And I'm so thankful that you're out there and other people are out there because boy, you sure hit me with one today. I mean, you have no idea how. And to think that above everything else, that little booger would choose to tell you something that was going to help me. I mean, of course, it'll help him because he's probably tired of dealing with my emotions about it. But it helped me too. And isn't that just like an animal?
Yeah. And that's where too is like, this was just a quick check-in I did with him because it was I knew we were going to be talking about other stuff, and so it was just that he had to give me something that would capture your attention,
Mm-hmm.
that was also for you, because
Mm-hmm.
we think a lot of times we're getting when people do sessions with me, they think it's for the animals, and yeah, they get the answers. But and it's funny because when I do the sessions and I tell them to have questions ready, usually with all the stuff I get ahead of time, and I begin the session with the information I've written beforehand, and it comes up and it just um, and then they get to their questions and go, well, they're answered already, but it's even more because the animal provided all the stuff about me. And I go, but that's the thing, is they are taking care of us always.
Uh-huh.
So it's amazing. And I just think that's funny because that's what, is like, okay, so here's nice describing your personality and what he did. And then it was like that one, but it was just like, it's just like, this has got to stop. I know. So
It's and
anyway.
100%. And I was like, I kept saying, I told my son, I said, I don't know what's got into me. Is it just, because that mother thing, we'll do that with our kids too,
Yeah.
and especially sons, because I think they leave the nest a little bit early, as soon as they have first girl, it's all over, baby, you know,
Yeah.
you know, and that's kind of the thing. And I'm like, okay, I can't imagine living without, and I mean, I really looked at him and I said, I can understand where he's coming from because I've been a basket case and I need to
Well,
stop.
stop it.
It's done. I'm done because
And just to tell you, my brother's cat lasted until he was 26.
yes, isn't that true? Yeah, and I look at him too and I tell him, 'cause he had problems when he was a baby, but like I said, I was an herbalist, so I did some things that I was working with a vet who, bless her heart, she did Western medicine and herbal stuff. And like I said, I did a lot of foster. I worked at PetSmart, so I can't tell you how many animals, right? Because I'd
Yeah.
take all the ones home that were gonna, it was their last weekend if they didn't get adopted, and I'm like, oh, just give them to me. I'll take them from here. And so I actually had to lie to my children one time because I had this Siamese cat. He was the only one who didn't get adopted, and he had ice blue eyes. It's a funny story. And I brought him home, and how bad does it have to be where your kids are going, Mom, have you lost your mind? Stop it with another one. But he was going to be, they were going to gas the poor cat. So I'm like, no, it's not happening. I took him home and I lied to my children. I said, he's blind. I couldn't leave him. He's blind. He can't see. I mean, they were older. They were teenagers, right? And they're working and they're going off and on. About 3 days later, I called my son from work and he says, he says, I'm on the bed and I'm petting this cat, the Bullet, the new one. And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, I don't know, Mom. I think he can see it. I'm like, it's a miracle.
You're so bad.
I mean, that's how bad it is because I just can't, I
Yeah.
have this thing where I have to save everybody. People say you
Yeah.
can't save them all, and I'm like, I could try,
Yeah.
and that's just yeah. But Mr. Dickens is he's the top cat for sure. He's a booger, and boy, he's zinged me. Yeah, no catnip for you tonight, buddy. Joking. I deserved it. I totally deserved it. And isn't it neat? I got one up by a cat, and I just think that's wonderful. You couldn't have made me any happier. It's just amazing. It's just amazing.
Good.
And I would love, this has been the fastest hour ever.
Yeah.
So much fun.
I
Tell
know.
us again. Now, you also do a little bit before I let you go. You also do, and I'm not understanding complete. Is it life coaching through spirit guides? What?
No,
What?
so it's basically, but it really happens like if you have an animal, it happens when I have no control of the session. So when, as I just mentioned, usually it'll be information will come up about the owner. So
Right.
I started off originally being able to channel people's spirit guides,
Cool.
and I was just a conduit. So if someone was looking for change and transformation in their life, and they felt like they needed support is that I will and do spirit guide sessions. But what I find is that no matter what I do, is that the animals will always provide information on what their owners need. So, it's funny because I was doing a session for a gentleman in the Yukon, and he contacted me because, and there's usually something going on. So I figured it had to be something about, something going on with the dog. Anyway, the dog let me know what was going on, what was happening, but why. And I said to the guy, so here, let's start off. I said, wow, you've got some drastic changes. He goes, what the hell does this have to do with anything? And I go, I don't know. This is just what the dog's giving me. And I said, whoa, and one of them really includes moving. And he goes, what? Like, how do you know this? And I said, I don't know. And so anyway, I was like, and you just can't figure out what to do. So it was going through what he was going through and this stuff. And so the reason why the dog was acting these behaviors is because the man was all over the place with these choices and what to do and just in a query. And so what I find is when I do sessions is that the guides or the animals will provide the information so that the owner knows, get some like suggestions on how to handle something or tools to be able to move forward. They never give like advice like choose this or this, but they'll give tools on how you can work through things yourself. So I always feel it's amazing because I never know what's going to come up, but it will be always intriguing. And the people, like I get some things, well, I feel I have hope now. I feel like a weight's been lifted off my shoulders. Yep. I have confirmation. So it's always to me beautiful and amazing because whatever comes through is meant to come through. So if I can tell you, what every session's going to be like, I have no idea.
Yeah, we think we can prepare ourselves, but like today proves, you just never, no matter how much you think you might I hate to say no, because you really can't know anything in this, because as soon as you think you know something, it shifts on you. You go, wow, that was bigger than I thought. It's a subject. It's an amazing, the bullseye is always moving, and it is, but it's so comforting, when you hear these kind of things, and it's just like anybody else. If you talk to any medium or something, you can sit down. I mean, the kind of medium you sit down and go, okay, well, your mom was here. She saw you dancing in the blue dress when the song was playing and nobody's there. No matter what you tell people, they'll go, yeah, but is it really her? And I'm like, who do you think it is? She just told you, you had 20 things. We always want a little more. We always want a little confirmation because we second guess everything. If we just let it, let it happen. And, if anything, we get anything out of this is, they're here. These animals are here to comfort us and to help us through. And as you've said, a lot of times, most of the time, they pick us. Even if you think you went down and picked out that puppy in the pound, and it's probably done, through spirit guides and little things that shift you and make you choose, go this way or turn right or go left, And it's an amazing world if you look at it that way. And I cannot thank you enough for coming on today and spending this time with myself and Mr. Dickens as well. I can't get over that. Do you know who I am? If that isn't him, boy, I'll tell you. And please, one more time, tell us, where can people, now session usually lasts approximately a half hour, an hour or something like that?
Oh, no, I prep for a couple hours beforehand, but the sessions go minimum an hour to hour and a half.
Okay.
And people always wonder, can they just do one animal? Well, no, you can do more. Uh-huh. So it's funny, I did a session for a woman in Denmark, and I think she had 9 animals. And I said, I will not get to all 9. I said, tell me which are the most important. Or what I'll do is I'll let them speak, and we'll go through, and we'll do as many as we can. Because when I can only also get so much information.
Right.
And so it's sort of like where some speak more, because there's some that like Mr. Dickens, which are just more pushy and want to talk more. And so, some will talk more, some will talk less. But yeah, it's about an hour and a half. And, the first part, I'll share all the information I got first. And then we go through any questions the owner has, but most are answered, but we still go through anything that they might have. And usually, I'd say nearly all the times is that when we finish, they just go, it's always sometimes like, oh my God, that was just so much. And because I record it all, I send a recording afterwards so they can listen to it again, because some people say to me, that was just so much that I don't even know if I could take it in. So I need to listen to it again.
Perfect.
So
and
people can find me through my website, which is dalemccarthy.com, which is DALEMCCARTHY.com.
perfect. And we will definitely put a link at the bottom of this so they can just hit the link and get right to it in the show notes. And I just can't thank you enough. I mean, it's just been a wonderful conversation, and thank you so much for you responded so quickly. And sometimes I put stuff out and I don't get any answer back for like 6 months, and you respond so quickly, and I thank you so much. It must have been the right timing, you know.
It was, and it's funny because I'm actually booked till end of May with sessions, but I just went, no, you know what, and I just go by what I feel. I went, no, I don't, I was working this morning because I don't like working Sundays normally,
Yeah.
and or Saturdays, but
Yeah.
I'm going to do it because I'm doing the other session this morning. I have a little bit of time between. I'll make it work.
Thank
So
you so
it
much for
was,
doing that. It
it
was the right
was,
timing, I think.
yeah. And guess who wanted to talk?
You bet. You bet. He probably set the whole doggone thing up. We think we're in. He probably set the whole thing up because I have no idea even how your video popped up. You know what I mean? I wasn't looking at it. Things happen. They happen for a reason. And sometimes we just got to let go and let it happen and enjoy it. And I thank you
Yeah.
so much for coming in today and doing this. This is just this I'm going to be walking on air for a long time, and you know, it's just wonderful. Thank you so much for what you do.
Well, thank you, and it's been wonderful talking to you.
Well, dear listeners, I cannot tell you how much fun that was. Now, I highly recommend that you get a hold of uh, Dale and do it right now before you forget. Send her an email and set up a session. Because if you have a pet and you would like to know what they're thinking, no holds barred, apparently, um, please do that. It's an amazing thing. I cannot tell you what it feels like to hear what they're thinking about us and how observant they are. And, we know they care. We know they're smart. We know, um, but when you hear personal things coming back to you from a pet, now I assure you, I told Dale nothing about Mr. Dickens. I told her, I'm not even sure I told her how old he was. In fact, I'm darn sure I didn't. I said, Mr. Dick, because she asked me not to. And I said, if you have a moment, if you'd like to, click in, I've got several animals in the house, but I would assume that, he's got the stronger personality. I'm betting he would be the one to come through. If you get anything, let me know. And that's all I said. She gave me the well, actually, she didn't. I said, if you want, I will give him permission because I know that that's what you do. Because I know from other clients and things like that that she does that, and I think that's fabulous that they do. She does the little energy permission. You have permission to talk to Dale. This is a friend, and let her in if you can, and tell her what you want to say. And I did that with Mr. Dickens, and I said, if you want to talk to her, I said, tell her anything you want to tell her. And he kind of looked at me and he gave me this look like, all right, you want me to talk to her? And I thought, the second he did that, I just got this like little chill, like, you know exactly what I'm saying. What's up? What are you going to say? And that's exactly the conversation I had with the cat. And I knew that I said, it's okay, buddy. I said, tell her what you want to tell her. If there's anything you need me to say, I understand. It's all good. And I walked away and I did the next thing. And then he comes back with something like that. So, absolutely, 100%, 150%. She's amazing. She's just amazing. And so I highly recommend that you do this and get to know your pet a little bit more. And you know what? Get to know yourself a little bit more, because I promise you that I've been doing that, and I don't know where it's coming from or um, why I've been looking at them and thinking, I promise this, and this is so personal, but I'm just going to tell you guys. I literally 3 days ago looked at him and I said, I've had to deal with a lot of loss in my life, and all the things that I know, and think I know in theory and everything else. That energy just moves on. And I think, I could deal with a lot, and have dealt with a lot. And that's why I'm kind of where I am now. But I said, I just don't want to deal with, losing you. And I actually thought in my head, and it's so hard to even say it, but I said, I hope I go first. And then I stopped myself and I thought, God, how selfish is that? You know, of course, I wouldn't want to leave you behind anybody else to take care of you and to do that. And I changed it real quick and I said, I'm sorry, man. I shouldn't even said that out loud. Look at me putting that energy out there. And I said, apologize to the universe. I apologize. So let's just go together. It kind of like lifted the atmosphere a little bit, you know, because we do get attached. And if you've lost a loved one like that, a pet or anything, it's devastating. It's devastating, and we've had a lot of loss lately, and I guess that's where my mind was. And boy, he was in it. He's all about it. He's like, that's got to stop. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Right away. You know, and I can tell you there'll be a little extra catnip on his pillow tonight for him. So, thank you so much for listening. I would also like to announce a couple things. Don't forget, my book's out there still. It's on Amazon. I'm trying to come up with something really cool, like maybe doing a Facebook Live. When you sell on Amazon, author copies take a little bit longer to get. And I'm trying to get a bunch of copies together, maybe do a Facebook Live signing for you guys on a discounted price. And I just want to get it out there. It's doing really well. I thank you to all of you who've bought it and put good reviews on there. There is one where the gentleman got a bad copy. We had a little help putting up the first copy of the Kindle, and he put the wrong copy up there. He put the wrong copy up there. And it was up there for a couple of weeks before we realized, because it didn't start getting to where it wasn't edited and everything, but except into the second chapter. So I didn't sit and read the whole book again when I got it up on Kindle. So there was it was such a mess. They had to get it back down, and they got to reload it, and they get it So some person loaded the wrong PDF up there when it had been half done. So I got a really bad review, and I tried to, you can't get a hold of the guy. What are you going to do? I was like, here's a good copy. Let me get you a good copy. But you can't do that. So it's just going to sit there forever until it goes away. But there's an awful lot of 5-star reviews on there, and I can't tell you what it feels like to get a 5-star and somebody to recommend your book and somebody to say, wow, this touched me, or I was intrigued by this story, or I can't tell you how that feels. When you sit and you pour your life, this stuff happened to me. And to go through it when you're writing it and just try to get it the way it happened, and you want to reach a reader in hopes that that reader, if they were like me when I was a young girl trying to get information, um, trying to understand something that happened to me, this is what I tried to do when I wrote this book. This is how it happened. This is what it smelled like. This is what it sounded like. This is what I felt. This is what I thought it was at the time. This is what I think it was now, years later. This is everything that I can remember about this. You go through these emotional roller coasters, like 2 or 3 at a time, because you're stirring up all this stuff again and reliving it. And to put that down on paper and then have people read it, and then that's one. They bought it, they read it. Awesome. But to like it, to get something out of it, nothing could be better for an author. So thank you. I'd like to thank Jose and so many of you out there, and again Steve, for coming along for the ride. Steve Stockton. Don't forget, his podcast is 13 Past Midnight, and on YouTube. Don't forget, we have a new YouTube channel now. If you can, just go in there and like it, or subscribe. I think we're up to we're on 170 now or something like that, but that's a new YouTube channel. This podcast has been going on for a while, but we had to change networks, so I just opened my own just to let it roll, let people get it. So we're getting a lot of new listeners, a lot of great comments. Love that. Thank you. We are on now. We are on KPLN Radio, and that is K Paranormal. You can find that via their Facebook. You can kpln.com. Just Google that, or like I said, get in at Facebook. Get the link there. Um, we're in there with Anne Celine. Um, we are in a lineup that you just wouldn't believe. We got Mysterious Circumstances with Justin, one of the best podcasts I've ever heard from a gentleman that I will always call friend. Justin, if you're out there, I love you. This man is one of the best investigators and the most down to earth people. The way he goes at a case, a mysterious case or murder or crime of some kind, his delves into history are absolutely bar none. He has, I think, a 4-part, maybe a 3-part on Jesse James. It's just, boy, if you think you've heard the stories, you think again until you've heard Justin go into this. And Justin Rimmel, amazing. Highly recommend you like that Facebook page and get in that group if you're interested, and listen to KPL and radio. We've got 13 Past Midnight. Steve Stockton is on there. Great stories, great narrator, beautiful work. Some stories are his own, some are retellings of folklore and what he likes to call from the mountains. He's born in Tennessee. So a lot of retold stories there, but some new ones too. Some he's written just recently. Beautiful stuff. So many good podcasts on there. We've got Legend of Lore. I mean, golly, there's so many different podcasts on there. I'll tell you what, some of the best music you've ever heard as well. There's 3 or 4 different artists on there. They play music in between. It's like jazz blues. Some of it is almost like you could call haunted blues. It's just amazing. From a skeleton who plays a piano. Absolutely phenomenal work. It's just crazy. So, really proud to be a part of that. And so glad that Crispy and I are on there. And thank you guys for so much, in between episodes. A couple new jobs, a couple new life change things going on. I'm getting these episodes out as much as possible. And I thank you. So, we are all children in the wilderness of the afterlife, a guided tour through a haunted life by myself and Steve Stockton. Get it if you can. Look for the future Facebook Live. We're going to do that probably on the Journey Through the Gate Paranormal Portal Podcast Gatekeepers page. So if you're not a member, get on that. So there you go. Thank you so much, listeners. Thank you to Dale. Just absolutely wonderful time. And it's good to hear you guys, talk to you guys again, and good to be heard. So there we go. Thanks again. I love you all, and absolutely look up Dale. Just a wonderful, wonderful time speaking with her and speaking with Mr. Dickens. Thank you to Mr. Dickens, too, for coming on, and I'm so glad he watched his language. So thank you, guys, and remember, keep your feet under those covers. Keep your closet doors shut, because there are things that go bump.